but this time I'm playing myself. In case you're wondering why, it's because, like you, I intend to vote in this next election. I want to know what I'm voting for. Like millions of other Americans, I'm a union member. I pay my dues, go to the meetings. And one thing I'm sure of, today, the guy with the job never had it so good. But it didn't all just happen. It didn't all just drop in our laps like apples from a tree. Free men, and only because they were really free men, made it happen. You know what this is. Public property. America's most famous piece of outdoor furniture. A park bench. Lovers have clung to each other on it. Old men in the afternoon sun daydream on it. Tramps have slept on it and been chased off it. A while ago you saw one just like it. Like this. This really happened. This was standard procedure during those years. Violence, beatings, blood. They went through this for you and me. They struggled to organize under the only system in which they could organize, in a free society, through the concerted action of free citizens. They suffered beatings by paid hoodlums. They were shot at by company police for trying to defend themselves, so that today we could have free trade unions. In those days, mass arrests on little or no evidence, so that today we are able to own our own homes. The 1930s, the Memorial Day Massacre, the Union ballot box took the place of this, so that today you have both your union and your self-respect. These were the auto workers. Today, even more important than the late model car you drive, is what they fought for. The right for labor to bargain peacefully and democratically with management. They finally got the park bench right side up. Are we going to keep it that way? You know, the city park is supposed to have something for everyone. For the very young and the old. For all of us. Yes, this is a picture about labor unions and politics. There's a danger that if today we don't wake up to what's happening here and now and in politics, your union card and mine won't be worth the ink of the printing on it. And the only way we can prevent that is by taking full advantage of our citizenship in a free society. There are three men we'll hear from. Our first speaker, out of the past, no stranger to politics, was, unfortunately for the world, a virtual stranger to a free society. Out of the bitter winter of his discontent and exile, Karl Marx predicted,
"The slave can only survive by the overthrow of the master. The modern laborer, instead of rising with the progress of industry, will sink deeper and deeper below the conditions of existence of his own class. He becomes a pauper, and pauperism develops more rapidly than population or wealth."
Karl Marx, a prophet of slavery and dictatorship, because he was a stranger to a free society, the kind of society that can produce a Samuel Gompers. Sam Gompers, the father of our American labor movement.
I do not value the labor movement only for its ability to give higher wages, better clothes, and better homes. Its ultimate goal is to be found in the progressively evolving life for all who work. Only under free enterprise and within the framework of our democracy, capital and labor will thrive together when labor can bargain collectively and sit down at the same table with capital.
You know, there was a saying, a 1930 saying, what did it get you? A seat in the park. Maybe you don't remember them, the 30s, but there was a depression. Even if you were lucky enough not to have been around then, you'd better remember, because what you're looking at now really happened. This happened. And this. And this. They called them Hoovervilles. In the East, the unemployed sold apples on the sidewalks. And in the West, the starved-out, dust-parched farmers became America's displaced persons. We were in trouble, and one man led us out of it. Lest we forget,
we are starting out on a nationwide attack on unemployment. It goes back to the basic idea of the nation itself that people acting in a group can accomplish things which no individual acting alone could even hope to bring about. Child labor has been abolished. That makes me happier than any other one thing since I came to Washington. Under the National Industrial Recovery Act, all employees shall have the right to organize and bargain collectively, free from interference, restraint, or coercion in union activities.
Out of President Roosevelt's NRA came the Wagner Labor Act, passed by Congress in 1935, as fair to labor as it was to management. One word lifted us out of a depression that could have destroyed our country. A word given to American labor by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, giving us equality and dignity at last. That one word was free. Free from interference, restraint, or coercion in union activities. This is equal rights? Well, back to the present. This is where we came in. We have seen something of the bloody battles and the wisdom and the hard work that have put the struggles between labor and management in the past. In the past? I hope so. In the past, labor became united because it faced a common enemy. Millions of us, men and women who work for a living and belong to unions today, how united are we? Maybe you're wondering, what are we supposed to be united against? Well, just recently, in the summer of 1959, they passed a law in Washington, D.C., in the United States Congress. A lot of pages, a lot of words, and a long title. The Labor Management Reporting and Disclosure Act of 1959. That's what we should be united against. They called it the New Labor Reform Bill. Whose names were on this legislation? Congressman Landrum and Griffin. Phil M. Landrum from Georgia and Robert P. Griffin from Michigan. John L. Lewis holds new labor law dangerous. And why did John L. Lewis say it was dangerous? He testified, I appeared in front of the Labor Committee in Congress before the new labor bill was passed. They asked me if the Congress of the United States had passed this legislation, let us say, around 1920 to 1922, would there be a United Mine Workers Union in America today? At that time, I told the congressman, with this labor law, there wouldn't even have been an American Federation of Labor. And where did the Landrum-Griffin bill really begin? In the United States Senate. The McClellan Committee paved the way for the new bill. Undermine one union by investigation, and public sentiment can be swayed to the weakening of them all. Yesterday's news. The McClellan Committee cried corruption. The public press brought public reaction. They said we need a law to prevent corruption. Sure, but we've got not only a law to prevent corruption, we've got a lot of other things tacked on. This is what the Landrum-Griffin bill might mean. Take Title VII. Title VII deals with the question of who's to be the judge in a labor management dispute, the federal government or the state. Well, Title VII says that at its own discretion, The National Labor Relations Board can refuse to hear any dispute where it doesn't want to exercise its jurisdiction. Broad language? Let's take a town. A thriving, cheerful, growing little place. And now, in a state court, a union representative, in good faith, is asking the court's decision on management's request for an injunction against the union's peaceful picket line, and its finding on the union's petition of a genuine labor grievance.
With respect to the union's petition, it is the ruling of this court that since the National Labor Relations Board feels there is no need for it to go into these union grievances, that this court must have further time to study the matter. Now, in the meantime, management's request for an injunction is granted, and I hereby declare such a temporary injunction to be enforced.
How long is temporary? Time is always on the employer's side. How long can strikers and their families hold out? 10 months? 12 months? By the time the merits of the case may be heard, there may be no strike left at all. Another case where the courts, under Landrum Griffin, can be used to settle disputes by injunction. Courts used as strikebreakers against the very worker taxpayers who contribute to their support. The owner of the plant that was the lifeblood of the town moved to another state where he didn't need to bargain with unions at all. The life and death of the town, because the new Landrum Griffin Reform Bill made it a no man's land. Here's another trapdoor that can plunge America's working millions down to the bottom of 50 years ago. The section they call outlawing hot cargo. Hot cargo? No, it has nothing to do with pearl smuggling in the tropics or beautiful slave girls. This is hot cargo. The employees of one plant are on strike. At the same time, in the dispatcher's office of another company, which supplies the struck plant...
Here's your order, Sam, for the delivery to Triangle.
Triangle's got a picket line around it. Are you asking a teamster to go through? You asking me to deliver hot cargo?
It's not hot cargo anymore, Sam. It's cold turkey.
You asking me to cross a picket line? Not to respect another union's right to strike?
I'm not asking you, Sam. I'm telling you. And if you refuse to make this delivery, I'll have to fire you. That's the law now.
Under Title VII, here is something else you can't do anymore.
Hiya, Marshal. What's the trouble?
No trouble yet. But the minute anyone from this company or any other refuses to pick up and deliver or perform any services, you're through.
You're kidding. You mean we have the right to picket, to try to tell our side of the story, just as long as nobody pays any attention? But the minute they do, then we...
Not what I say. It's what the new Landrum Griffin law in this warrant says. The minute you do, you're in violation, and I shut you down.
This young housewife and good citizen supposed to know this product is on the union's unfair list. Unfair not only to its employees, who get substandard wages under substandard working conditions, but unfair to its competitors as well. She doesn't know, because the Landrum Griffin law also prevents point-of-sale picketing. Point-of-sale picketing, which would let the public know the facts and support the good products of good employers offering good wages and good working conditions. But maybe you think you're beyond this law, that unfair labor legislation can't hurt you.
Well, hi, honey. Hi. Well, what brings you home at this time of day?
Didn't I tell you? I'm on vacation.
Vacation? No, you didn't. Well, what's wrong, Fred? What happened?
I've been given a vacation without pay. Yeah, pink slips, laid off, fired. And house payments, car payments, doctor's payments, dentist
I
payments.
can't believe it. Why, Mr. Wilson's wife herself told me how much he liked your work. Well, what about the union? Why don't
Well,
they...
it isn't their fault. The company or the unions have our shifts out.
It's that new outfit that moved into town. That non-union shop that pays cut-rate coolie wages. They're running our plant out of business.
Well, then why don't you fellas simply go down there and organize their workers? The town can't afford to lose a plant that pays good wages. Not if the doctors and dentists and other businessmen want to hang on to their income.
That's for sure. But you just can't go down there and organize workers. Not anymore.
Well, why not? You fellas did a darn good job of it before. And Mr. Wilson himself said the plant's done more business than ever before.
Yeah, sure. We did a good job of organizing then. Pre-Landrum Griffin.
Oh, that again.
You bet. That again. Only now it's come home to roost. At our home. I wonder if Congressman Landrum and Griffin have mortgages on their homes.
But couldn't you try? Well, how could they stop you?
How? Believe it or not, the way they and everyone who voted with them passed that law, you just about can't picket an unfair employer effectively to gain recognition or even get him to bargain with the labor organization. Unless the labor organization is already certified as the representative of his employees.
Do you mean you can't organize their workers unless they're already organized?
And I'm the guy who said our union should stay out of politics. Can you beat that? Come on. Let's get dinner and get a babysitter.
Gee, hon, I'd love to see a movie, but do you think we ought to, now that you're not working?
We're not going to the movies, not tonight. We're going down and join the union's Register and Vote drive.
If employees want to organize an unorganized plant, the answer is, under the new law, they just about can't. What's the point of walking up and down if you can't even carry a sign saying why you want to organize? If you think things were tough under Taft-Hartley, they really got it fixed now under the Landrum-Griffin law so that they can even pull the switch on enlightened management.
Oh, that'll be all, Mr. Booth. Come on in, boys. Sit down.
Thank you.
What's the big problem, Joe?
Well, it's like this, Mr. Conway. Our local has to ask you to stop farming out piecework to South End Equipment. We just found out they're paying substandard wages.
Are you sure?
Positive. We checked. Here are the figures.
Excuse me. Hello, Bert. Their contract with South End Equipment is running out. Don't pick up any more options. Well, why not? We've always run a strictly union shop here. Some of my boys have just shown me where they're paying their people starvation wages. What do you mean I can't? What? Oh, I see. All right, Bert.
What's wrong, Mr. Conway?
You know what my legal department just told me?
No.
According to the new Landrum-Griffin law, you not only haven't got the right to ask me to stop doing business with South End Equipment, but if I even listen to you, the National Labor Relations Board can slap an injunction on me. I could lose my shirt. You'd be out of jobs and I'd be out of business.
Incredible? This, too, comes under the provision preventing hot cargo. Good management can't even ask for standards as good as its own in other shops. And speaking of injunctions, all roads under the Reform Bill seem to lead to the law courts. Again, under Section 7, the officers of a small local are meeting to discuss another benefit for its membership, the building of a free medical clinic for their rank and file. A cause for celebration, a goal achieved. Or is it?
Which one of you is local treasurer?
I am, and we're holding a meeting.
Department of Labor. And this is for you. Give me your answer.
To what?
To the charges against you.
I don't even know what they are.
That what you say? What's your position?
I can't tell you that now. I need a chance to look this over.
We need it right now. We're going into court for an injunction against you this afternoon.
If the local treasurer, or anyone, was charged with murder, he'd have time to hire lawyers and prepare his case. But this is under the Landrum-Griffin law, by order of the Labor Board, at any time and without due process. And to what purpose? It is now several months after the local treasurer was hauled into court, and clearly there wasn't much of a case. Tonight, he's presenting his annual report.
Before I read,
my report to the Brotherhood, I'd like to explain that in living up to the new labor reform bill, we won our case. But we're a small local, and we need good lawyers, and they cost. And then there's where they got the title for the new law, the Reporting and Disclosure Act. Every time you turn around, we have to report and disclose every move we make, every dime we spend to the Labor Department in Washington. And that costs plenty too. We had to hire a firm of accountants on a yearly retainer to keep up with it. And you know what this has really cost us? It's costing us our free medical clinic. We just can't afford it now. And if this keeps up, we lose our right to operate as a real union.
The cost of filing hundreds of reports to Washington, not only financially prohibitive, but if a small union could manage, well, look at this picket line. It's invisible. The picket line that wasn't there. The small union that never happened. What you just saw can happen and is happening under the Landrum-Griffin bill, under the section headed Bill of Rights. Is this what will happen? Will you let this be the park bench of tomorrow?
Goody, we can eat again. Forgot you had a credit card.
Credit card. It's my union card.
Union? What union?
Remember the one we used to have before they passed that law that wouldn't let us do this, then they wouldn't let us do that? They kept putting so many teeth in it, chewed us to pieces.
You think we could have done something about it, like...
You bet they could have done something about it. And we still can. Like being active American citizens and active union members. You say you are? Our actions speak louder than our words. It's much later than you think. Before it's too late, let's look at the record. This is where we came from. Through the dark of the 20s, into the dawn of the 30s, to the dangerously complacent afternoon of today. And our future? Will it be doomed by unfair labor legislation well calculated to divide and conquer, masquerading under noble phrases? Will we surrender by default, by inaction, to that minority, active as they are powerful, who perpetually work for the return of the good old days? Their good old days of 70-hour work weeks, the days of the sweatshops, and you know whose sweat, the days of child labor, and you know whose children. It's up to you and me. We're not strangers to a free society. There can be no compromise. If we are to maintain and improve our American way of life, our nation, no more than the world itself, can prosper, half slave, half free. Don't just sit there. Don't just applaud us. Join us. Make your voice heard. Only free citizens in a free society can stand up to be counted, where it counts the most, at your union meetings, in your town halls, supporting, voting for candidates who vote for you, active American citizens, active union members, working, voting, fighting for their rights. This is the way to a better tomorrow, for ourselves, our children, for all mankind.